I'm going to say something that'll make half our listeners think I've lost my mind. Glasgow Warriors beating Toulouse 28-21 isn't just the upset of the round. It's the moment European rugby's old aristocracy officially died. When you're trailing 21-0 at halftime to a Toulouse side featuring the returning Antoine Dupont, and you still find a way to score 28 unanswered points, that's not luck, that's not a fluke. That's a seismic shift that'll reshape this entire tournament.
Welcome to the Rugby Rundown. I'm Gavin, and that explosive opening was from my co-host Adrian, who clearly believes we've just witnessed European rugby's equivalent of a tectonic plate shift. I'm here to provide some analytical balance to his passionate proclamations. Today, we're dissecting what might be the most significant Champions Cup weekend in recent memory, centered around Glasgow Warriors' absolutely stunning comeback victory against Stade Toulousain. The fundamental question we're exploring: have we just seen a miraculous one-off? Or has the entire power structure of European rugby been fundamentally altered?
Gavin, when you're 21-0 down at halftime at home against the six-time European champions.
Let's break down what actually happened tactically here, because this wasn't just heart over head. In the first half, Glasgow played directly into Toulouse's hands with loose kicking that allowed Juxtaposed and Dupont to counterattack with devastating effect. But the halftime adjustments were nothing short of masterful. They shifted to direct carrying through Sione Tuipulotu, improved their territorial game via Adam Hastings' tactical kicking.
Exactly.
And crucially, that Glasgow defensive set became what the match reports called barbaric, a term usually reserved for South African packs. They completely neutralized Toulouse's trademark offloading game.
But here's what your statistics and tactical breakdowns miss, Gavin. The psychological turning point came when Dupont got substituted in that second half. You could literally see it in the French body language. Their talisman was off the field. They were supposed to be untouchable, and suddenly these Glasgow forwards were smashing through them like they owned Scottstown. That's the moment champions become mortal, and once that aura breaks, you can never truly put it back together.
I'll concede the psychological element is significant, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Toulouse still secured a losing bonus point and remained second favorites with the bookmakers. However, this result fundamentally compromises their path to the number one seed. Meanwhile, Glasgow now sits on perfect points, 10 out of 10 possible, after that bonus point victory at Sale Sharks in round one.
Right, and that's the critical point about modern European rugby. Home advantage isn't just beneficial anymore, it's absolutely essential. Glasgow's guaranteed themselves a home round of 16 tie, potentially a home quarterfinal. That Scottstown atmosphere we witnessed against Toulouse? That's not going anywhere, and now every major side knows they might have to travel there.
Which brings us to the elephant in the room that's been driving rugby purists absolutely mad. We need to address the Vodacom Bulls situation because their performance has been nothing short of disgraceful.
Finally, the Bulls have conceded 98 points in 2 games, 46 to Bordeaux at Loftus Versfeld, 52 to Northampton, 98 points. And here's the absolute worst part. Pundits on the Rugby Pod and Rugby Union Weekly are destroying them for sending what amounts to a C team to Northampton. They've essentially forfeited the integrity of Pool 4 by treating the Champions Cup like some kind of glorified training camp.
The selection controversy is legitimate, but we need to examine the broader cross-hemisphere travel tax issue. Look at the data. Bulls at Saints lost by 47. Sharks at Toulouse in round 1 lost by 37. Even experienced Saracens only managed to keep it within 5 points against the Sharks in Durban. The logistics of this format are genuinely brutal.
But that's exactly my point. The DHL Stormers are proving it can be done right. They beat Bayonne away 26-17, then absolutely destroyed La Rochelle 42-21 at home. 42 points against the back-to-back champions. That demonstrates you can master both aspects of the game. Barbaric scrum dominance when you need to grind, expansive attacking rugby when you want to blow teams away.
Fair point about the Stormers. FloRugby analyst Philip Bendon noted they're mastering what he called the two-front war better than any other South African franchise.
Exactly. The difference is commitment versus compromise. The Stormers treat European rugby like it matters. The Bulls are protecting their URC campaign and treating Europe like an afterthought.
Let's broaden the scope and examine implications. Because while Glasgow's having their moment and the Stormers are ascending, we still have Leinster and Bordeaux looking absolutely dominant. What does all this reshuffling mean for the tournament favorites?
Bordeaux is playing the most beautiful rugby I've witnessed in years. That Galactico backline with Damien Penaud, Louis Biel-Biarré, and Romain Burros is simply unfair to opposing defenses. They put 50 on Scarlets, 46 on the Bulls at Loftus-Veerveld, and winning at Loftus is supposed to be virtually impossible. Mathieu Jalibert is conducting an absolute masterclass season.
The Loftus result is genuinely staggering from a statistical perspective, but here's my analytical concern about Bordeaux. They're predominantly attack-focused with defensive vulnerabilities. When they inevitably face Leinster's rush defense under Jacques Nienaber, will those highlight reel plays still be effective? Leinster demonstrated against Leicester exactly what happens when you can deploy test-level quality from the bench for the crucial final 30 minutes.
That bomb squad effect with Dan Sheehan and Rabah Slimani?
That depth advantage is almost impossible to counter systematically.
But you're analyzing this like a spreadsheet again, Gavin. Rugby isn't contested on paper. Yes, Leinster has incredible depth and defensive structure, but what happens when they face a team that refuses to play their systematic game? Glasgow just demonstrated that if you can weather the initial storm and stay in the fight, even the most dominant sides can crack under pressure. The momentum shifts, the crowd gets behind you, and suddenly Invincible becomes vulnerable.
You're not wrong about psychological momentum, but the broader trend indicates home advantage has become absolutely critical. Bath scored 34 points at the Stade Mayol and still lost to Toulon. Northampton are clinical at Franklin's Gardens. The data overwhelmingly shows that traveling cross-hemisphere without full-strength squads is tantamount to surrender.
Which is precisely why Glasgow's position is so dangerous for everyone else. They're sitting comfortably atop Pool 1, guaranteed home advantage through at least the round of 16. And with Bath, Bordeaux, and the Stormers also securing top seedings, we're creating a knockout phase where traditional powerhouses like Toulouse might be traveling to venues they've never had to worry about before.
That's a fascinating observation about the reshuffling of seeding hierarchies. The tournament is evolving into what the analysis calls a competition of haves and have-nots. The gap between fully committed first-choice 15s and rotated squads is creating a tiered competition within the pool stages themselves.
Exactly, and that's why Glasgow's achievement matters so profoundly. They've demonstrated that if you fully commit, if you genuinely believe you belong at that level, you can break through the established hierarchies. The old guard's dominance is crumbling before our eyes.
The travel tax statistics are particularly telling. The data confirms that traveling cross-hemisphere without full-strength squads is essentially surrender. The Stormers remain the only team to have truly mastered this dynamic so far.
Right, and that commitment versus compromise mentality is what separates genuine title contenders from pretenders. It's not just about talent, it's about respect for the competition.
All right, time for final whistle predictions. Adrian, you've been proclaiming the death of the old order and revolutionary changes. Put your reputation on the line with a bold tournament prediction.
Bold prediction time? Glasgow Warriors will not just make the quarterfinals. They'll host a quarterfinal at Scotstoun and beat whoever comes calling. The psychological belief they've gained from that Toulouse comeback will propel them all the way to the semifinals. Mark it down. Scottish club rugby is officially back on the European map, and the established powers better take notice.
My prediction might sound contradictory to everything we've discussed about upsets and momentum shifts. Despite all the chaos, despite Glasgow's miracle and the Bulls' disgrace, the final will still be Leinster versus Bordeaux. The systematic depth and defensive mastery will ultimately triumph over the brilliance and psychological momentum. But here's my twist. It'll be played in Dublin, and Leinster will claim the title with their lowest scoring performance of the entire tournament. A defensive masterclass for European glory.
A grinding attritional final for the title? You know what, Gavin? I actually love that prediction. Shows that even the analytics guys appreciate the dark arts when it truly matters.
That wraps up this week's Rugby Rundown. We want to hear your thoughts on Glasgow's miracle comeback and whether you believe we've just witnessed the start of a new European order. Connect with us on social media with your takes, and don't forget to subscribe for more Champions Cup analysis as we head into those crucial January fixtures. The battle isn't just for qualification anymore, it's for those precious home seedings that historically determine the destination of the trophy. I'm Gavin.
And I'm Adrian. Thanks for joining us. And remember, in rugby, belief and momentum can overcome everything. Glasgow Warriors just proved it definitively. Until next time, keep following the revolution.